Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to a wonderful Wednesday here in Breton. Winter's coming. Winter's coming. It's definitely getting chilly here, but here we are. I got my sweater on today, I got my jacket, and we got a little bit of heat going. Nice of you all to join us today. I have another great episode for you. We got two wonderful gentlemen joining us, Pastor Artur Pawlowski and Rene de Vries. De Vries, I think I'm getting there. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about a couple things. So Artur is going to announce his March that's coming up on November 30th, the March for Justice. Why is he doing it? Why are we in a position where we need to do stuff like this, March for Justice, and exactly what he hopes to get out of it. And Rene is going to come on, and he's going to be talking about global warming, the environment, the whole thing. Okay, so don't get all freaked out. Rene is an expert in it. He's written a book, and he's a candidate for the PPC. And as you know, the PPC has a policy around this whole climate thing. Okay, so we're going to get into it, and we're going to see what it is that we actually need to address, don't need to address, and really focus on. So this is going to be an excellent episode if you're curious about what it is that we need to address on a national level and international level. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Artur in. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jason. Good to be back on your show.
Thank you for coming back on. And Artur, it's a real pleasure to have you here. And the last time you were on, you announced that you were doing the March for Justice. You were going to bring it onto the show, and a man of his word, here you are. You're here with the announcement.
Yeah, so well, first of all, we have to understand that not much has changed. There is a lot of talk, Jason, a lot of people talking, a lot of good things that sound really good. But we have been played like this for decades right now. As you know, your next guest is going to talk about climate change, about all this buzz. I don't know if you have seen the so-called prime minister of this country, the Castro's son, said that climate change is actually more important than your children. Can you believe it? Wow. I didn't know that, right? No, climate change or this garbage from the globalist agenda is not more important than my children. My children are my children. That's the life. That's the future of this country. So what we are observing is their continuation of this attack on our lives. And there is, Jason, no justice in the land. People quite often will say we have to move on. We have to kind of move on from what happened to us in the past 4 years. Well, sorry, we cannot move on until justice is served. It's just like saying after 1945, let's just forget what the Nazis did to the whole world. Let's just okay, it's done. The war has ended. Let's just move on and forget the horrors of the Holocaust, the horrors of pillaging and raping and destruction and robbery. Because you got to remember that the Germans have stolen trillions upon trillions of dollars from all those countries that they pillaged and raped. That's why they bounced economically so quickly after the Second War, while Poland was completely demolished, destroyed. So justice. Nuremberg was needed because justice demanded restitution. But there is no justice in Iran. Why, Jason? Because the same players are still the board game. The same people, the same political parties. You've got the conservatives, you've got the NDPers, you've got the liberals, coalitions, non-stop going on. The same people, Pierre Poilievre, the very one that your guest probably is going to talk about, that signed the Paris Accord. And people don't know that we are dealing with the same individuals. Is a revolving door. And that's why I believe that we have to keep reminding ourselves, because the politicians are not listening. They don't care. They are doing this to us. We have to understand they do not care. They will tell you what you want to hear, but they will forward their globalistic agenda. Stephen Harper was just hired by the conservative government, Daniel Smith, here in Alberta, the same man that signed the WEF. You know that. You know the truth. You know what's going on. Most of the people do not know what's going on. They do not know that the same people that raped us and pillaged us before are back at it again. Jason Kenney is working in the background. He never left. I hope people understand that they are still players in this big scheme of things. And that's why I wrote the book, because in my book that I penned in prison, I'm talking about the political fixers. I'm sure, Jason, you remember, because I shared that on your show, that I started to receive attempted briberies for about 10 months from Daniel Smith, from the conservative government, multiple attempts to bribe me. And then when that didn't work, the political fixers kicked in. And what the shocker was, because I didn't know all of those things were happening in the background, I was told by the political fixers, and it's in my book. I'm naming them. I'm showing you who those big players are. I was shocked when they said there was a meeting between Stephen Harper, Jason Kenney, and Pierre Poilievre. And they were telling me that it has been decided that I have to be eliminated, removed from the board. And if I will not stop talking about what I have seen, I will be sent to prison. They said exactly their words. The judge is bought and paid for. Gordon Krinky from Brooks, out of all the places, Brooks, Medicine Hat, Daniel Smith writing. The judge is bought and paid for, and he has been ordered by those three men, Harper, Kenny, and Pierre Poilievre, to send me back to prison where I'm going to be assassinated. And Jason, because I shared that story with you, that those were not idle threats. They lit my house on fire. They lit our church on fire. They burned down our children's bus. They unscrewed tire in my pickup truck. I was physically attacked. 5 inmates testified to my lawyers that the guards were giving them incentives to assassinate me. So why am I telling you all of that? Well, it's in a book, Lions Do Not Bow. Has become the bestseller for a week. Last week it was multiple days, and we sold out every copy. The attempt of the Canadian government to stop this truth from coming failed, and within the first day on the market, the book was completely sold out. We have ordered many more thousands of copies. So go to amazon.ca, amazon.com, and you will be able to pre-order your book, and it will come to you. So why we must keep pushing the agenda of justice? Because there is great injustice in the land. There are victims to this day. They're victims of this political attack on our lives. So this November the 30th, 4 p.m., on the grounds of the legislature, we want to remind ourselves, because again, I already told you that the politicians don't care about what happens to us, but we're going to remind ourselves that there are still victims of this government in our beloved province. They are children that are being jabbed. There are political prisoners still in prison. There are crooked judges, like the judge for the Coutts 4, that refused to show the people the corruption of Stephen Johnston, the Crown prosecutor, that is a monster liar. By the way, he is included in the book. I don't know if Jason you knew, but here is here's his picture right here, because I wanted the people to know who the monsters are. How do they look? He did everything in his power to avoid his picture on the internet, but we, the people, we deserve to know who is doing this to us, and why. There are victims of the jobs right now, families crying for the loved ones, children hurting and dying, turbo cancers. I mean, I can go on and on and on. If you're really interested in what's really going on, you can follow Dr. William Mackis. Mackis is telling us on a regular basis. Every day I receive stuff from him about what this experimental garbage that they forced on the people is doing to human body. Also, there is still injustice if it comes to portraying the stories, the manipulation, misinformation, and open lies by the mainstream propaganda machinery. There is no accountability. We got arrested for keeping the church's doors open. Jason Kenney was partying with his ministers, by the way, which are still in power under the Smith regime, the Nixon brothers, for example. So there is no justice. One law for me, one law for thee. We get arrested and ticketed. Those people can get away with literally murder. So we need to start doing those marches. And I hope that this is the first, but not the last. I am asking all the victims and people that want to stand with the victims to come. enough. I really, Jason, appreciate your letter that you're asking for truce, you're asking for ceasefire, because the same beast is destroying us, the same beast is eating us alive. We must stop fighting with each other,
Hmm.
because if we fight with each other, the monsters will win. Divide and conquer has always been the game. So we must align ourselves within something that we can agree on. And you're not my enemy. You see, you are allowing me to invite Albertans, and not just Albertans, anyone is welcome to come to the March for Justice. In that sense, you're an ally. You are allowing me, because the mainstream media is not going to allow people to know this is
Right.
happening. So we must understand that we don't have to like each other. I said so many times to the people, don't like me. I don't care. I'm not running for the popularity contest, but
Hmm.
align yourself with the principle of justice. And we must somehow find this common ground, that our neighbors, our families, our friends, our co-workers are hurting. 50% of Canadians are hurting economically, and this is just the beginning. And I said it so many times that they are forwarding their agenda. There is great injustice in the land. So I want the people to come. If you know a victim, if you want to stand in solidarity with the victims, I don't care from which background you're coming from. It doesn't matter from which party you are coming from. For that day, we will be united by the cry of the victims. And I'm sure that you know some. I know plenty. As a pastor, I have victims coming to me on a regular basis. I just had a young boy in a church. It breaks my heart. And maybe that's why I am so passionate about this justice, because I deal with horrors on a regular basis, heartbroken families. This young boy, his father just died, jabbed multiple times, and they know, the family knows, a healthy guy, 56, I think, or 60 something, like, not the old guy, drop that, boom. And this is happening everywhere. There is great injustice. Who is going to do it? Well, politicians are not standing for justice. Pierre, the same man that signed us into a Paris Accord, which is the carbon garbage tax, is
And
the
we'll get
same,
right into that.
right? It's the same man that is saying, axe the tax. And people are buying it. They're giving him a standing ovation. And it's like, my God, what is going to take for Albertans to wake up and open their eyes? So there's a lots of things that I have included in a book. Again, Lions Do Not Bow. And this is my way of giving them a bloody nose. Jason, you remember they told me, shut up, be quiet, and I decided to write a book and include everything in a book. I don't know any other way how to fight them. I have my mouth, and sometimes I yell because I don't have any other weapon. And you're doing the same thing, except you're a little bit more diplomatic than me, and you're a nicer. You're a Canadian. Sorry, I won't hold that
It's
against.
okay.
I'm a Polish firebrand, if you will. I grew up in hell, and when I see hell, I want to yell and scream. People, you don't want to experience what we experienced growing up under the boots of a totalitarian regime. So this is my invitation: March for Justice. I invite everyone, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will, those that love me and those that hate me. It doesn't matter. This march is not about me. This march is not about our church. This march is about the victims of this totalitarian regime, and there it's a big spectrum of victims. It's not just the jobs, it's not just the politics. Everywhere you look, schools, the children are victims of indoctrination, and of course what will happen to them in the past few years. So I hope that we're going to have a good crowd this coming November the 30th, 4 p.m., and I don't know yet. We will see how the authorities are going to react. Maybe we'll do Jericho March 7 times around the legislature. Maybe we will go to the court. We will see what happens. But come, Maxime Bernier, I know, is coming. He's going to be speaking at the event. Tia Fleury is coming. He is going to speak at the event as well. Tia is a victim of a great injustice. Great injustice was done to him. So he's going to be speaking. And I invite others. Bob Leon, if you want to come, that would be great. Or Grand Abraham or others, whoever wants to stand. And even if there is, I know there are not, but let's say I am mistaken. If there is anyone within the government, either, I doubt it, NDP, of course, those are psychopaths, but let's say there is some that are still good people and are there for different purposes. I invite you to come as well. Stand with the people. People, you are supposed to represent the people, the little men, right? Um, that elected you, or Conservative Party, or the Liberals, anyone that wants to come. And I doubt that any one of those people will come. I doubt that the mainstream media will come. If they will come, it's only to smear us. And like last time we did an event at the legislature, we had every color that there is on earth, and they were the ones leading the Jericho March, and the mainstream media, of course, spinned it that this was white supremacist march. So those are the things we're dealing with, and I hope and I pray, that's my prayer every week, that Albertans will wake up, that my fellow Canadians will wake up and open your eyes and see, please, while you still can, because
Mhm.
they are destroying your economy. The market, the housing bubble, the commercial crisis. I am an ex-businessman. Economy is a big part of my life. I have seen this before, and I'm telling you, economy is in crisis, and it's done by design. This is a controlled demolition, elimination of the middle class, creating two categories of people: extremely rich and powerful, and those that they will be completely controlled and enslaved. I have seen this movie before. We must change the script. So, March for Justice, November the 30th, 4 p.m., Edmonton legislature's ground.
Excellent.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Arthur. I'm going to do my best to be there. So I'll be there marching with you. Even if we do the Jericho March, I'll march with you 7 times. And thank you very much for highlighting the media, because it kind of wraps up what we were just talking about when it came to my open letter. CBC, Fifth Estate absolutely are trying to kill Chris Lysak, Chris Carver, Tony Olenek, and Jerry Morin. They're trying to kill them, because the episode that they just put out there still tells Canadians that these guys were trying to kill police officers, which the jury found that was not true. The evidence does not support it. And even the Crown themselves, during the plea agreements with Lysak and Morin, agreed that was not happening. But yet here we are with the media still doing it. So my open letter that you referred to was to everybody who was there at that courtroom. If you sat there for 1 hour or for 10 days or the entire time and you took notes, release that truth. Release the truth, because they told us that we can't talk about it. They threatened us with jail if we talked about it. Now's the time to get it out. Release the truth. That Stephen Johnson guy who's in your book there, Pastor Art, he's evil, and people need to know
Very
about
evil.
him.
Very evil.
Very
And you
evil.
have to know that Stephen Johnston, the main Crown prosecutor, he is a pathological liar. You know why they have never sued me for defamation?
Because you're
Smith,
not lying.
or because I'm not lying.
Mm.
Because my intention is not to manipulate. You see, I have nothing to gain except your happiness. I'm just trying my best to save your lives, and those people
Yep.
are trying to hurt your lives. That's my intention, is to give you the truth. Whatever you do with the truth, it's up to you. Stephen Johnston, in my instance, and during the proceedings with a trio, George, Mark, and Alex, or the four Coots boys, have been lying and lying and lying. In my case, during my bail hearing, Stephen Johnston lied every single time to different judges. Every time. The guy manipulates stuff. He makes stuff up and he brings it to the courts as the truth. And that's shocker, because there is nothing at this moment that we can do with those monsters, those bloody killers and liars. So why the media is forwarding this narrative? Because this is a fight, Jason, to the death. Those people cannot let it go. This is not like, okay, we were wrong. People died. Albertans, Canadians, you must understand that they will never stop, because people died. They spilled blood. people died because of their lies. So now they cannot, even if they wanted to, they cannot backtrack and say, oh, we were sorry, because this would be the biggest lawsuits in the history of mankind.
Right.
And it would finish them off, the politicians, the mainstream media, the judges. That's why you need a change of guards. That's why you need new political party, new politicians, just like what we observed in the United States of America.
100%.
Donald Trump is not a politician. That's why he made so many mistakes the first term. Now he's not. He learned his lesson. But he is a businessman. He is your average Joe. Yeah, rich average Joe. But nevertheless, his mind works differently than a mind of a career politician. Career politicians, that's Smith, that Pierre Poilievre, that's Stephen Harper, Jason Kenney, those are career politicians. And the only thing they care is to give you the lie, give you as many promises that will ensure the re-election. Nothing else matters for those people. They don't care what happens to you as an individual. They care to be re-elected. Again, the president, Donald Trump, he is completely different because he already achieved everything a man can achieve on this side of eternity. He just loves his country and he wants to make America great again. Our politicians are making Canada worse and worse and worse. Since 2015, Canada has been systematically destroyed, and yet it could be the richest and the most prosperous nation on earth. But we have players, a revolving door, and people that do not understand who the players are, and they are voting for the lesser of two evils. Until that stops and we completely ignore the mainstream parties and just go outside of the box and vote for a man that is different, has proven to be different, nothing will change and people will hurt.
There you go, Rene. Right there for you. So he is setting you up because that's exactly what we need. We need new politicians, new leaders, somebody that has something to prove and somebody that has a history. It sounds like somebody I know. Go ahead, Rene. Floors are yours.
Yeah, Acts the 3:38, right? That would be much better than some limited changes in the system. And Artur, great to be on the show with you. Good to see you again. I don't know if you remember, but you spoke in a church here in Stouffville, and I was mesmerized and have great respect for your lion spirit, and also you inspire me with that. So thank you for that. I'm a business guy too, and I'm a dad, and I'm concerned about my kids and grandkids, and I'm greatly irritated by to say the least, by what's been going on. I've been resisting it. I haven't been injected with the experimental poisons, and I feel still very healthy to go at it and try to change what's going on. And that's why I threw my hat in the ring in 21 with Max Bernier, who was, by the way, just to get to the topic of that we are discussing, who was against the climate accord since beginning of his party, 2018, and has talked against that to begin with, and understood what this was about, a social engineering scheme for globalism. I feel now inspired, especially after what's happening. And it's good you mentioned that, Artur, in the United States. We in Canada are very much dependent still on what happens in Europe and in what happens in the United States. We're sort of sandwiched in the middle. And yes, World Economic Forum had great influence in Canada and penetrating the cabinets and what have you. And now with this sea change in the United States, the culture will change. And I hope that will wake up the 40% that doesn't even show up to vote anymore because they're so demoralized. And I also hope that it will turn on a light with the other 60% that, yes, something is wrong here. And we have been going down a very difficult slope that doesn't lead to peace and prosperity, but that leads to violence and degradation. And you're 100% right, Artur, with everything you talk about. And with respect to climate, you have to realize I work for a global company, number 3 in the world. It was actually elected. We employ 27,000 people, 36,000 people worldwide, 2,700 in Canada. And I'm proud of what we accomplished with respect to environmental measures. But I also am very dismayed with what's happened to my business in the last 5 to 10 years, where I feel it was hijacked for carbon orthodoxy and for social engineering purposes. So I actually, as I mentioned, I am finishing a book on that, and I will completely explain myself in that around it. But the research around it, I think, is useful at this point, and I'd love to talk about that some more in this episode. So glad you can highlight the environmental aspects of our program, Jason, because yes, that is close to my heart, and I'm not ashamed of it to be working in that field. We have, I always say, I don't know if you agree with that, and I'm happy to hear your perspective, but it's not the doctors that increase life expectancy. It's the engineers and geoscientists that created clean water and sanitation for the masses, and that therefore improved their living conditions. Yes, later on, the doctors obviously helped, but for sure with vaccines, they haven't helped us, in my opinion. And in that sense, clean water, clean air, clean soil is important, and that's something that I'm not ashamed of to fight for. Now, let's go to climate change. I need to give you a little bit of history in that regard. The Western elites since 1800s have been focused on the issue of a small pie, the pie not growing, basically a limited pie that you have to split up amongst each other. Robert Malthus, who was the father of what we could call the father of the environmental movement in the West, talked about this, that, okay, well, population grows, and at some point the population will run into war and famine, and that will be a limiting factor. And the entire Western elites have bought into that Malthusian thinking, and I would argue that at this point this is exactly what we're dealing with, neo-Malthusians. And in 1970s, that was just actually at the time when people in the Western elites were worried about communism rising in the West. They thought, well, we need something that unites people and that we bring them together around, and we need a social engineering tool. And they chose the environment, the Club of Rome, to use that. And that's the roots of also the World Economic Forum was started up around that time. That actually created the conditions to use environment as a social engineering tool. Climate alarmism is just part of that. And yes, I feel resentful about this, that my good profession has been hijacked by climate alarmists that have turned this into you could call it a hoax, a scam, a money-making enterprise for themselves, not for the benefit of the population. And that's what we're dealing with at this point. I believe in solid science, and I believe in that sense. I don't know if you followed Dr. Patrick Moore, who did a stellar presentation for the U.S. Senate around climate change and CO2. I think that 6 minutes is worthwhile looking at, because Patrick Moore was one of the founders of Greenpeace. So he had, just like me, very much a concern for a good, clean environment, and cared about it also because of the people that lived in it, and cared about the people in the environment, and wanted clean air, clean food, clean medicine, and clean water. However, he said the CO2 has been hijacked. The CO2 issue has been hijacked. It is not based on science, and now it's been run away. And it has turned the environmental movement, which was born out of initially good intentions, to basically become anti-human. And yes, it's been hijacked in that sense. Some people will call it a satanic cult for death purposes, depopulation purposes. I'm fighting against that. I need to shine a light on that, also to defend my profession. And I hope you understand the nuances. I go into great detail around it in my book that comes out in March as part of supporting my campaign. I'll be running again for the PPC in 25. So I think, Artur, you're right. We need to continue to shine that light on all these issues, not just on the environment, obviously on health. Health is a whole different issue, also been hijacked by the money makers and the money changers and the corruption. And I'm so happy. I don't know if you feel that happiness too. Well, the last 2 weeks I've been sort of doing my my dance. Young man,
Trump dance.
No. RFK is going to clean up this pigsty, and I think this is going to be huge for us. Now, all we need to do is make sure that he stays alive, and I believe that his intentions will be will be followed through. And at that point, we're set up also for the PPC, by the way, in Canada, for success and for a change of guard, and for all these politicians that have bought into fake science for money's sake, to expose them and to get rid of them. So yeah, that's my 10-minute elevator.
No problem. And Artur, I'm going to come to you next, because what he just said there was, here was a profession of people that were doing good. They actually really meant to do good. And then they got targeted and they got used. They actually perverted it. And I know you're going to use that word a few times. The entire desire of people like Rene here, who was actually trying to help mankind. And then they're using it to depopulate and to scare and to fearmonger and all this kind of stuff. Now, Artur, you were south of the border during the campaign of Trump. I believe you were even assisting in some ways with them. So you're kind of close to that entire group. Do you believe that putting faith into Robert Kennedy is a good idea? And do you think that we're going to see what Rene's looking for? And that is a fight against all of this from Robert and Donald.
Well, I have been campaigning for Donald J. Trump for the past 4 years, not just, past few weeks. We have dedicated pretty much everything we could and had to help to bring the light into this great darkness, because I'll tell you why. If if America would fall, Canada would be gone in a heartbeat.
Sure.
And not just Canada, but every other free country in the West. We would be wiped out. We would be finished. So I hang around with the Trump entourage, if you will, and his family, and General Flynn and Mike Lindell and others, Kash Patel, and you name it, hundreds of people. I had dinners with a director of Homeland Security, and people that actually are in the know what is really going on, the open borders, the deliberate attack on the American people, poisoning water, food poisoning, all those different things. Look at the 70s, the pictures from the 70s and 80s. You've got American people, beautiful and thin and no big issues. Yes, you always had sickness. A sickness will always be around. And so from time to time, you would deal with people that are a little bit overweight and because of different sicknesses. However, the population was relatively very, very healthy. So my question is, what happened? Well, they happened. That's the thing. People, greed, corporations, and total disregard for human life. The only thing that matters for those monsters, I call them monsters, because they're not human beings anymore. Humans do not act this way. Animals, some animals act this way. They are monsters. The only thing that matters for those people is money, power, and control. So that's what happened. And it's a human nature, I guess, for some people. You see, I wake up in the morning, Jason, and my first thought is how I can help people, how I can do better. I feed thousands of people on the streets of Calgary, as you know. And my philosophy, my way of thinking and living is how I can feed more, how I can help more people. They wake up in the morning and they're thinking how we can murder more, how we can enslave more, how we can, milk them like they're leeches in our society that are just stealing and raping and destroying. So I'm very optimistic. I'll tell you, the past few months, while I was in New York City, I was teaching Republicans about communism and socialism in different clubs. I was traveling all over the United States of America, telling people what they're dealing with, because most of the Americans, and probably more than most Canadians, a bigger number in Canada, do not know what we're dealing with or with whom we're dealing with. They think that this is just another political thing and it's not a big deal. Politicians are the way they are. They're like, no, we have entered a new season. Those politicians that we have right now, they want to kill you. They want to destroy you. Why? Because it has been decided globally by the so-called elites that we have too many people. So, if you would talk to me 20 years ago, I would say there is no way the government wants to murder their own citizens because it's all about taxes. right? So they want more taxes. Therefore, they will try to preserve your life so you can keep paying taxes. It makes sense from the economical point of view. However, we entered a new season in their globalist agenda, and this season says there is too many of you. So we will do everything in our power to eliminate as many of you as possible, and the rest we will poison so you can die sooner. And if you don't believe me, if you think Artur Pawlowski is just crazy, I want you to go and Google the conversation between David Gates, Bill Gates, sorry. We have our own domestic terrorist, David Gates, the crooked judge in Alberta.
Hmm.
But Bill Gates, and I don't know if they're related or not, but Bill Gates is sitting with one of those demons discussing how they're going to use the jobs to eliminate a big portion of the people. They are not shying away from letting you know their plans. The Great Reset, of course, he wrote the book about it. And it's telling you.
And Arthur, we as good people are at a disadvantage there because we don't think that way. We don't think in those evil ways. So that's why we also get caught on our back feet. And I must say, many people that I also work with in the environmental business, for example, they think that they're helping, right? So, and that's what that's been hijacked. And I would say the same thing about the doctors that no, some saw it for what it was and stepped out and confronted it, but many think that they're actually helping. They don't realize that their professions are being hijacked for this depopulation scheme. And if we don't believe that's right, I 100% agree with you, Arthur. What you can see what's happening now. Finally, Trump broke through. We see that we're ready to make the change. What do? They try to overthrow the chessboard, right? They want to start nuclear war now with Russia because that's how they will stay in charge. So yes, that's what we're dealing with. Now, we need to continue to press on, shine a light on that, and make sure that people understand that. And I think we're at a pivotal moment in that regard. If we prevail now and we rush in as good people to fix this situation and to change things around in 25, also in Canada, we can make a change.
Yeah, 100%. Look, in America, people have chosen. I mean, it was a big red. People have chosen, people have spoken. They want someone like Trump. They want someone that can flip the tables, that is not intimidated, that will say what he sees, not what is popular or politically correct. We don't have such a thing in Canada, in power. I mean, we have few candidates that are willing to do this, but the ruling elites are opposite to what is happening right now in America. I have hung around with those people from Trump entourage, and I'm telling you, I've never met more loving, patriotic human beings in my life. I have seen them, during dinners and during private conversations, not where the cameras are rolling. Because here is the problem. Politicians are very clever manipulators and liars. They are completely different in front of the cameras and the reporters, and are completely different in a private environment when they feel safe, when they feel the cameras are not rolling. I was privileged to hang around in many hundreds of different events and meetings with those people, and I've never met more patriotic lovers of their country in my entire life. They truly love America, and they want America to prosper. Why? Because they love people, they love God, and they want Americans to do better, not worse.
And they believe in growth. And that's the big difference between that old ghost of the Malthusians from Europe and North America, which this is why people flock to North America, because they saw growth opportunity there, not just mental also, but also physical space and the economy. And people flourished here. And that's the whole different mindset. And yes, that is what America and Canada has been built on, the dreams of future generation improving. And they're trying to snuff that out at this point, because for environmental reasons, for other reasons. And it's right to fight back and to regain that and take control of that again.
Environmental reasons is a hoax. They are just using something that people can kind of agree, because a good person, a Christian, we are commanded to take care of the land. You know that in the Bible,
be good conservers. Yes,
we must be good steward of everything that God has given us. That's why you don't go around and shoot stuff just for the sake of shooting or destroy or demolish. Christians don't march through the cities, burning stuff up and destroying businesses. That's the left. That's what Antifa does. That's what the Black Lives Matter, all those psychopaths are doing. Christians don't do stuff like this because we value other people's property, we value other people's things and environment. So we are good stewards. So when you sell this to the people, look, the earth is being destroyed and we're going to collapse, and our children will have no future. So they are lying to the people in that a sense, trying to get them on board.
You know what it's about, right? It's again about fear. Right. Yep. We saw it with in the medical business. They were able to sell their potions because of fear. They're now with the earth collapsing. It's fear, and now they can extract money. It's a similar mechanism. So yeah, we need to be conscious of that and shine a light and show them the truth. And once we do that, I think we can make great progress.
And I just want to end with this before I forget. Jason, I'm getting old there. I'm not denying that there are seasons, that there is a season of climate change for that season, and it goes up and down. I know historically speaking, you have few warmer years, and then you've got few colder years, and then it goes back. It's self-regulated. So you will have more ice in the north few years, and then you will have less, and it's back and forth, back and forth. That's how God created this earth. So sometimes it will feel like, okay, we have a mild winter, and that's probably because of the climate change. Nonsense. We go through different seasons, through different decades. And if you look back at history, environmental history, you will see the same pattern through hundreds of years. Sometimes you will have a record-breaking winters, which we had, and then you will have very mild, nice winters that are feeling like hot. That reminds me of this crazy person from Hollywood that did the movie here. What was it? Leonardo DiCaprio, I think. Woke or rogue, really, really crazy person. He experienced Chinook in Calgary, and Chinook is a warm wind that comes here, and it feels like summer. You can walk, and it's plus 20. So the day before could be minus, and then now it's plus 15, plus 20, and says, you see, that's the proof that this is climate change, right? But the thing is, they're morons. They're indoctrinated people that are forwarding a lie because their whole ideology is built on a lie. Yes. He would not even Google it up, what happens in Alberta, in Calgary, with the Chinooks. If he did, he would not make such a stupid statement. But they are forwarding an agenda, and that's what I want people to understand. They are forwarding a lie, and they want you to buy this lie with water, with food, and that they spin it in such a way that everything they do is for you and for the future of your children. It's for your benefit, but it's actually opposite
for them. Yeah,
correct. And one thing I wanted to highlight, to extract money. That's a good line there. But I want people to kind of rethink this. I don't think these globalists are trying to become rich. They're trying to make you poor. Their goal is to make you poor. A poor person has a hard time fighting until they're super desperate. They want you poor, distracted, and they want you scrambling to get the scraps. They have a lot of money. They just want you to have none of it. So I think that's kind of the effort here, is they're trying to transfer all the wealth. Yes, they're doing the transfer of wealth, but not for the purpose of making themselves wealthier, for the purpose of making you poorer, because you won't fight with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer now over to the policy here, Rene. And I believe not only did Artur touch on a lot of these already, dude, it sounds like you are very much in line with the PPC policy here, Artur. So what I'm going to do is I'll read out this issue, and then we're going to go through some of the policy recommendations and challenges that the PPC are bringing forward. So the issue with climate, the Liberal government is spending billions of dollars at home and abroad to fight global warming, or climate change, as it is now called, to account for every natural weather event and its opposite. In order to lower greenhouse gas emission, it has imposed taxes and countless regulations. It subsidized inefficient and costly green technology, and it is blocking the development of oil resources critical to our prosperity. It is an undisputed fact that the world's climate has always changed and will continue to change. Until 12,000 years ago, much of Canada was under ice, and it is thanks to natural climate change that we can live here today. There is, however, no scientific consensus, and this is where Rene will jump in. However, there's no scientific consensus on the theory that CO2 produced by human activity is causing dangerous global warming today or will in the future, and that the world is facing environmental catastrophes unless these emissions are drastically reduced. Many renowned scientists continue to challenge this theory. The policy debate about global warming is not grounded on science anymore. It has been hijacked by proponents of big government who are using crude propaganda techniques to impose their view. They publicly ridicule and harass anyone who expresses doubt. They make exaggerated claims to scare people. They even manipulate school children, getting them to pressure their parents and to demonstrate in the streets. We have seen this, Artur, all over the place. You've seen it in the street. You've seen the divide between parents and students. They're using even our children against us on this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly highlight the plan that the PPC is bringing forward where they'd like to see change. One of the first ones is withdrawal from the Paris Accord. Withdraw from the Paris Accord and abandon unrealistic greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. They'd like to prioritize support for Canadians, stop spending billions of dollars to develop countries to help them reduce their emissions. PPC wants to abolish the carbon tax, and this is before even Pierre used these lines. Abolish the carbon tax, abolish the Liberal government's carbon tax, and leave it to provincial governments to adopt programs to reduce emissions if they want to. He would like to promote private sponsorship, abolish subsidies for green technology that let private players develop profitable and efficient alternatives. We'd also like to invest in adaptation. So invest in adaptation strategies if problems arise as a result of any natural climate change. We also want to promote solutions for Canada, prioritize implementing practical solutions to make Canada's air, water, and soil cleaner, including bringing cleaning drinking water to remote First Nations communities. It's a tragedy that we're still doing this, Artur, that we can't even get clean water to the people in Canada. And then the last one we're going to highlight here is we want to reduce immigration because immigration itself does contribute to this issue, substantially lower the total number of immigrants and refugees Canada accepts every year from 500,000 planned by the Liberal government in 2025 to between 100 to 150,000 in normal circumstances, or even lower in crisis situations.
Right, like it is now. Actually, Maxime has called for a total moratorium temporary to get our house in order again, and I think that's in order. So
correct. So what Max is laying out here is in normal times, we absolutely can address it. But in emergencies or crisis situations, we also do things like moratorium. So before we jump to you, Rene, because you're an expert on this, Pastor Art, what are your thoughts? Does this sound like common sense approach to the issue?
Of course. Of course, and the other side will say we are doing our best, and they will tell you what you want to hear. If there is a bigger amount of people that will rise up for something like this, you will see them flip-flopping. But someone in the comment, I just read the comment, is talking about the chemtrails, and I'm thinking we have been called conspiracy theorists for everything. I have run out completely of all the conspiracy theories because they are now a fact. They have been fact checked even on Facebook, believe it or not. So why there is not one single government in our beloved country that would actually say, I will check what is being sprayed and I will report to the people? Not a one single politician is doing this, and yet there's such a huge buzz about the topic, right? I'll tell you why. Because they know that they're spraying us with chemicals and heavy
metals.
Metals. They are doing this purposely. That's why. You see, what we need, again, we're going back in the circle, back to the main thing. We need new players, new people in government, people that are willing to do, not just to say, but to do what needs to be done. And that's why, and I said that many times, my dog would do a better job than all of the politicians that we have in Canada right now. Why? Because my dog, when he wakes up, he doesn't want to hurt you. You feed him, you pet him, you let him out. He's a happy camper. What we have right now with the politicians that are in power, and I'm talking all of those people, conservative, liberal, and NDP, Green Party, I won't even mention, they're psychopaths. So all of those people that we have in power right now, they are hurting you intentionally. That's why I said my dog would do a better job, because he doesn't want to hurt you. You would be better off. My friends, Canadians, we would be actually better off without the government bureaucracy than with the bureaucracy that we have right now, because this bureaucracy wants to hurt you and your children. That's why.
It's reinforcing the bad measures. I agree with you. And what I hope we will get out of the example set in the US is that good business people, and I consider myself a business person too, and I'm stepping up, but other more powerful people, I was just thinking about Kevin O'Leary that looks at Mr. Wonderful, that looks at, oh yeah, what's going on in the States, he's all enamored. But people like that are not stepping up to go and step in the gap that's needed to make the change in Canada as well. At this point, you got a lot of what we call the fake conservatives sitting on their hands, just as they did in the COVID era, and just as they did with the war machine debacle in Ukraine. They sit on their hands to wait to see what happens, and that's not how we're going to create the change. We need the people to step up, and I actually, I have great hope now that because of what's happening in the US, that people will step up, and that good, and there's many good Canadians, okay? And so I don't want to be disparaging to all those who have good intentions, who want the best for their kids and grandkids, but who have been misled by the propaganda. And so I think it's our job we're the first ones out and making the noise, the Paul Reveres, as Alex Jones likes to call them. Let's do that in Canada, and let's wake people up. And I think we can. Well, if Canadians can do it, or if Americans can do it, then so can Canadians. So that's what my hope is also for 25.
Bravo. Okay, so Rene, we are down to our last 8 minutes or so here, and what I would like you to jump into is one of the things that I'm really happy about joining the PPC party for is people like you. So the party has people like you. You are an expert on environmental. You've been around it for a while. You watch it get perverted, and you want to see it get back to doing regular good business. So I'm really glad that there's people like you. Can you expand a bit more what drew you to the PPC party? What about this particular policy that you align with, and why do you think that this is the right path forward as an environmentalist, someone who's worked?
Well, as an environmentalist, I was early alarmed about the experimental toxin, and that's why I also didn't take it, because I feel I study toxins. I know what toxins are about. I know what's bad for you as for your body, and I've quickly concluded that this was not about health. This was all about another political agenda, just like the green agenda had been hijacked. So I had lifelong ambitions to get, at the end of my business career, to get involved in politics and to try to change things for the better. And then in 21, when we had a serious emergency and my daughters couldn't go to university and were locked in their houses, and I saw the suffering all around me, I felt, okay, as a good dad, I have to stand up. Now is the time. And I think Maxime's, I connected with him. He has shown a great example, as he says, he repeats a John F. Kennedy speech there, when he says that now is the time for this generation to stand up and fight for freedom. And I fully agree. This is, by the way, for me personally, has roots going back to the World War II. Artur, your roots go back into tyrannical Poland. Mine go back into a tyrannical World War II situation in the Netherlands, where a total of 8 of my family members were killed by the Nazis. And my grandfather, whose name I carry, actually, his strange name, you wonder what's that handle for my ex-Twitter, that's his name. He was one of 18,000 that died standing up against fascism in 40-45. And that history still continues, right? My book is actually called 80 Years of Toxic Soup. That history carries forward. We need to resolve it. We need to now step into our power and make sure that we create the change we want for our kids and grandkids. Otherwise, they'll be bamboozled again. And that the bad people, the Satanist cult, as we can call them, and we're only talking about a small group of people in the world, will take over. And so we need to step up and set it right. So that's that was my motivation. And yeah, that sounds a bit heavy, I guess, but Maxime has shown a good result. You do need to work with people in the system. There's a lot of people that talk about, well, these people, Maxime is one of them, and he isn't. He at one point got sick of the corruption, stepped out, and is legitimately building an alternative. Yes, it takes long, and too long for many people. They're not patient enough. It will take time, as we saw with Nigel Farage in England. It took him 7 tries to get elected. In the meantime, he created the Brexit, though. So I see our role the same way. We already are creating massive changes in the discussion. Look at where we're at now with migration, where we're talking about at the national level. Even Trudeau is now forced to call for reduction in migration. There's a lot we can do, and I think our future is bright, and especially after November the 5th. So I guess that's what I want to focus on, and I'm greatly encouraged by people like Arthur, who have been doing this all their lives out of the goodness of their heart, because of also their spiritual connection with God. And I think that's also one thing we have in common. So
Sebo?
Yeah.
Very good. Now, Arthur, I'm not sure if you can see it, but behind Rene is a Canadian flag. And on that flag, there's some material or some substance on it. And it's not because he doesn't keep his stuff clean. It's because somebody threw something at that flag during the Freedom Convoy. So this was a Canadian or somebody that was there, threw an egg or threw something at the flag. And this is a representation of the fight that Rene was doing in Ottawa. What do you say to those Canadians who are still so afraid and so scared that they'll even throw stuff at the Canadian flag because they're so worried that they're going to be in trouble, or they're going to be attacked, or we are attacking them? What do you say to these Canadians who are still very, very woke and very scared that they'll even attack a Canadian like Rene, who's out there fighting for their freedom?
Well, people have been indoctrinated. People have been scared. You have to understand that what happened to us for a number of years was a blanket of terror, and people are simply afraid. But I want to tell you why I got involved in political realm. I hate politics. Politics is like a human manure in a sewer canal. I mean, it's filthy. It's unbelievable. I don't even like to hang around with some of those people. I need a shower after.
Yeah.
So, this is just evil, and they're forwarding evil. But why I got involved is, I'm a preacher. I am a lover of God, and I am a lover of people. I give people messages of hope and the future, because Jesus Christ was the number one freedom fighter that ever lived, was born and walked and died for our freedom. Actually, it says in the Bible that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Who comes to me, Jesus said, is free indeed. So I am focusing on that. And this freedom for people to be able to choose has been attacked viciously by the political realm. So I look at this and I say, well, if they're attacking and if they're preventing me from setting the captives free, I have to get involved, remove those evil people, and bring back the freedom that God, because this freedom, you got to remember, this freedom is not from government. This is a freedom that God himself has given us, freedom to choose him or reject him. So if it comes to fear and or hatred, I don't understand. Guys, I have been arrested by the Canadian government so many times we lost count. I'm still in court. I have been charged with terrorism for giving a sermon to the truckers. I have been convicted with criminal charges for keeping the church's doors open, feeding the poor. And yet, 350 citations later, over 120 court cases later, in front of my house, there is still a Canadian flag. Because you see, the flag represents something bigger than the crooked, evil, globalistic politicians. The flag represents what I came for, and I came for freedom, for a better life, not just for me, but for our children and their children. And that's, my friend, it's worth fighting for. Artur Pawlowski's story is the story of a simple man that stood against the most powerful people in the land and prevailed. Look, out of this struggle, out of this craziness, out of this attempted bribery and attempted assassinations, came a book. My story is not look what evil has been done against me. No, the story is look what the amazing things the Lord has done for this man. That's hope. With God, we have already won. The enemy just doesn't know it yet. So we must come back to sanity. We must come back to accountability. Checks and balances must come back to our realm. And we can do this together. If Americans could do it, I echo what you said. Canadians can do it as well. Also, I was, and I'm still so impressed with the truckers and the farmers. Canadians have shown the whole world how to fight and how to do it on a massive scales. And to this day, I get people contacting me from around the world saying that it was the trucker that showed us how to stand up against the totalitarian regime. If we did it before, we can do it again. So do not be afraid. Do not be scared. If Artur Pawlowski can do it, if the gentleman here can do it, that means you can do it as well. We're no special. We're just like you. We are your neighbors.
Exactly.
And together we would be unbeatable, unshakable, unmovable. And we have seen this before. And under Solidarity movement, people won. We can, stand in solidarity with each other again, and we can win again.
Mhm. For sure.
God bless you. So can we get a prayer from you, Artur, as we continue this journey, especially our friend Rene here, who's going to be fighting quite the fight over where he's at. Let's go ahead and have a wrap up and have a prayer here.
Sure. Father God, I thank you for Jason and Rene. I thank you, Father, for all my brothers and sisters, all my fellow Canadians, Albertans. Father God, I pray that you would open the people's eyes, open their ears so they can hear what's really going on, so they can see what's really going on. I pray that you would give them, Father God, courage and boldness of a lion. I pray, Father God, that good people would never bow before evil people. I pray for wisdom. I pray for supernatural knowledge. I pray, Father, that you would equip your soldiers with everything they need to win this fight. And I thank you, Father God, that you have given us a victory at the southern border, Father God, that we have a champion that is willing to fight, not just for them, but for us as well. I pray that you would give us a champion in our beloved Canada as well. Father God, give us a good man that will fight for our children and their children as well. I bless, Father God, this land with your perfect will in the mighty name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Art, and thank you, Rene. I know we stole a couple extra minutes, but if you want to say goodbye and run, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was good to connect again. So, and let's keep up the good fight. Thank you, Artur and Jason.
God bless.
Take care, Rene. God bless.
Yeah.
Bye. All right, Artur, what we can do is we're going to wrap up now, and I do want to remind people about your book. It is available on Amazon, so we've shared the link, and they can go ahead and get a copy of it right now. And do so, because if you want to hear about the story of what happened, because you penned this in prison, so while they were trying to destroy you, trying to get you to hurt yourself, trying to get the people around you to take you out, you were penning this book. So thank you very much for taking that time, bringing it to us. And this is what I'm calling everybody to do at this stage, because we got to fight back against the CBC, the Crown, the government, everybody. We need to start opening up the floodgates of truth. So share it all. So here's a great example of what happened to Artur at the hands of Stephen Johnston, the system. And if you don't believe it, read it. It's quite the story. So thank you, Artur, for penning this and putting it out there.
Yeah, and I want the people to know that this manuscript has been confiscated by the Canadian government 3 times. And 3 times we managed to get it back, and our lawyer took it out of prison, smuggled out of prison. We sent it to the American publishers, and the book is out. And you got to remember, they offered me so much to keep my mouth shut. So that's how scared those liars are about the truth. And my story is widely documented. I mean, you got the transcript from courts, you've got the arrests on video, just a massive amount of evidence. That's why we're suing them. We're still in the process of going after those people. We're suing Attorney General, Calgary Police, RCMP, prison, of course, Alberta Health Services. We're going after those people, exposing what really happened. And that's the thing. The truth will set the captives free. It's all about the truth, Jason. We have to let the people know what happened. And this is my narration of what happened to me, the background, the truck convoy, what happened in Quds, right? The Quds has been such a big story. I was there, and I'm telling you what happened there. I was allowed everywhere. I've seen there was no talk even about hurting another human being. It was all people were always afraid that the government will start hurting us. That was the talk I always
Mm-hmm.
heard. We are afraid. You know why I even went there? Because I got a phone call from Milk River and from Quds. Pastor, there are police officers dressed in black with machine guns pointing at our children playing street hockey. Can you come and cheer us up? That's why I went over there. People were depressed. People were looking at this. It's like, why the government is sending army type of folks muzzled completely against a peaceful assembly, against children and families and chilies and pizzas and fire pits and bouncy houses. So that's why I went to cheer them up. I went there to remind the people that we've seen this before. We must stick together. We must unite against this regime. And I said they don't have enough police officers to stop million Albertans. If million Albertans will say enough is enough and do it peacefully. But they twisted the story, as you know, of course, and they portrayed the bouncy houses as some kind of a disaster, dangerous to the public, security, to the national security, and they needed a scapegoat. So they wanted the same thing with me. As you know, Stephen Johnston, he said to us that he's going to keep me imprisoned until the trial for 2 years in solitary confinement. So the same thing that happened to the boys, they wanted for me. But thanks to God and my friends and my family and Americans and the good Canadians that fought for my life. They did, as you remember, they staged rallies and they fought for my life. So I was let out. It was just too much attention, international attention on my story. The other guys didn't have as much attention, and they were able to subdue this whole thing and keep them in prison. So, for the sake of the political prisoners, for the sake of the victims, we must come together. Forget about the 10,000 different things that
Yep.
that can bring division in our lives. Let's focus on one thing. Let's bring back justice. And March for Justice, November the 30th, is a perfect opportunity for good people to come together. And we will sing, and we'll have speeches, and we will march, and we'll do it peacefully, like we always do. And we're going to try to cheer each other up, and we will talk. Maybe we'll be able to find some solutions. Maybe we will be able to put some pressure on the establishment, but definitely we will come together in solidarity with the victims of this totalitarian regime that we have in our beloved Canada. And that's worth coming for. Even
Mhm.
if it's for that, to see each other's faces, to hug each other and to say, you know what, you're not alone. That's the most, Jason, to me, that's the most important thing, for another human to know you're not alone. You
Yep.
are not alone. I am hearing you. I am seeing your suffering, and I am with you in this difficult moment. But we must come together. The number one thing that I see in the church, outside of the church as well, people suffering is they are suffering greatly because they don't have the community around them. We must be for them, and they have to come and be with the like-minded individuals. That's where your strength is. That's where the power is. A community, family, God, love, peace, and hope. There must be a message of hope, and that's what we're going to try to bring, and we'll keep plowing. I have no intention of stopping. I know you have no intention of stopping as
Nope.
well. We don't have a choice. We have to keep plowing and putting the seed into the ground and believing that one day it's going to give us a great harvest.
Now, this event is for Edmonton, but would you encourage everybody on November 30th at their local courthouse to go ahead and stand up for and march for justice and the victims in their area as well?
Yeah, sure. But if you're in Edmonton area, if
Come
you're
to
in
Edmonton,
Alberta,
yeah. If
come
you
to
can't,
Edmonton.
if you're across
If you
Canada,
can, sure. I mean, you know how powerful those rallies are. People
mhm,
say they're useless. No, they're not. They're not. Look how powerful was the truck convoy. Look how powerful was our rallies in Calgary, where the mayor got so scared that outlawed protests. Look, if those rallies and the protests were nothing, they would not be bringing the Emergency Measures Act. They would not be taking it to courts, trying to prevent people from coming together. When people come together, that's power. Don't
mhm,
believe the lie that this is useless, that nothing ever happens. From that, you get an exchange of information, Jason. You meet other people, like minded people, and there is an exchange. There is exchange of love and hope. You feel you're not alone, and then you get the information, another information that you didn't know, perhaps. That's power. When I was in the business, we had the saying that information is more valuable than money, because if you have the right information, making money is quite easy. If you know
mhm,
where to put the money, it's extremely easy to make money. This fight is for the truth. And the only way we can get the truth is by coming together, doing shows like this, coming together and allowing others to say their piece. You see, I'm not afraid of being challenged by others. I'm not afraid of debates. I'm not afraid of being on different shows. Challenge me, fine. Throw. Let's make it more interesting. I'm not afraid of the truth being challenged, because the truth is like a pillar. It stands on its own. It doesn't need any support. So you can challenge me. I'm not intimidated. It's always the other side that is intimidated, because they have built their house on lie upon lie upon lie. Their house of cards is crumbling the moment the truth shows up. So come and exchange the truth with others. And so powerful. Those rallies, those protests are, to me, in my opinion, the most beautiful thing I have ever seen on the Canadian soil. I still marvel at what I saw with the truck convoy, with the rallies, with us marching together in unity. All people, no, under normal circumstances, we would never march together, but this united us and opened our eyes. I'm very grateful to what happened, because it allowed us to see how big of a problem we are facing, how
yeah,
evil those players are. So, in a sense, I'm very grateful to a pathological murderers, liars like Stephen Johnston, because it was thanks to him, I guess. That's why he's such a big part of the book. It was thanks to him for keeping me in solitary confinement that I was able to write. I guess I should send him a copy with a big thank you, because
maybe.
he's a big part of the story, right? Thanks to a liar, I was kept in solitary confinement where I could pen a book that has become a bestseller last week for a number of days, and we sold out every single copy. So to give the establishment a bloody nose, to give a Stephen Johnston a bloody nose, and those crooked politicians and judges, get a book for Christmas. Every proceeds from the book, we have decided with my wife, we're donating to feed the poor. So all the money coming, it's going back to the community. But it gives me great pleasure, Jason, to know that they've done everything in their power to shut me up. And yet the book is becoming a bestseller, and people are buying it and reading it and are being enlightened about what was done to them and who did it. So give the devil a bloody nose, like I say. Get a book, give it to the judge, give it to the police officer, give it to the doctor, give it to your enemy. Perhaps they will become your friends, and give
Mhm.
it, to your loved ones. And that's how we fight. We don't fight with guns and bullets. We don't fight with violence. We fight with the truth. And this is a perfect opportunity to get that truth out there into the masses. And we'll see what next. There's already a talk. I was on the Hollywood Zoom. They are thinking of turning the book into a movie. So everything they have done, Jason, is backfiring at them. Every single thing, every time they want to hurt me, God elevates me. And that's a good news. You talked about people that are afraid. Look at Artur Pawlowski with my broken English and funny accent. If a guy like this can stand against the most powerful people, that means you can stand as well. You have no excuse. That's the story. I mean, I am fascinated by the story because if I could do it, that means everyone can.
And what everybody should do now is become a lion. Go get that book and then come to Edmonton on the 30th of November, 4 p.m., and come march with us. I think it's a great way to start the Christmas season, Artur. Thanks for providing this hope and this guidance. We need it. This is the time for it. God bless you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jason. God bless you.
You have a great day. Go save Canada. Okay?
Amen.
Amen. Bye. All right, folks, there you go. You got your marching orders. You're going to go to a march. Go get that book, order it, read it, come to Edmonton for November 30th. He may even sign it for you. But the more important thing is come march with us. If you're for the justice and you want to march for the victims, there's a whole bunch of them. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a special because of this CBC Fifth Estate. They created even more victims. And one of the victims that's going to be on tomorrow is going to be Betty Carbert, the mother of Chris Carbert, who's been re-victimized again. She just spent 2 years fighting for her son, going to the trial, seeing the evidence, seeing what they said about her son, learned that they had nothing. There was no evidence. This was a big conspiracy to put political prisoners in jail. That's what it was. But then the CBC comes out and just undoes all that work that everybody's been working hard on and just told Canadians that these men are dangerous. Please support Betty. So tomorrow afternoon, or tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Mountain, Betty will be on, and so will Marco van Hugenbos, who has been convicted, and he's standing before the courts because he stood before the government down in Coots at the blockade. George as well, and Alex as well, they're looking at their sentences in January. So Marco will be on as we go through that episode, and we're going to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us, God. Now's the time. We don't have to be friends or foes at this stage. We have an enemy. We have an enemy. Let's target that enemy. Folks, have yourself a wonderful day. Public, thank you very much for hanging out. There will be no members area today. There's some technical difficulties. Members, I know that you're on the other platforms. Hi, nice to see you. But public, thank you very much. And please, if you want to become a member, go to thelevineshow.com. You can go there and see all 43 days of the trial that I covered, including the publication ban items. So if you want to know what really happened in that entire trial, become a member and watch all the episodes. Okay, there's over 90 hours of truth. Become a member. If you need any help with the costs, because we do want everybody to be able to get in there, send an email to members@thelevineshow.com and we'll get you going. And you can also make a phone call to Paula at 587-673-9955. She'll help you out. And you can also go to the Android and Google stores to get started as well. We want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. The CBC lied, and we're fighting back. 6 p.m. tomorrow. Betty Carbert, Marco van Hugenbos, myself, and others are going to get the truth to you. Have yourself a wonderful day, everybody. Take care of yourself and each other. You shake the hand of a stranger or neighbor. And why do we keep reminding you about this? It's because I love you all very much. God bless.